How you guys doing? Thank you for watching the next installment of Coding with Alex. I am Alex, your host, and in this episode we are going to be working on the register.js page. And as you guys can see, this is what our current application should be looking like. We have the register, login, and dashboard button all on this home.js page that we have going straight to the index to the base localhost URL. And right now, if we were to just click any of these, it does bring us to the register URL parameter, but it doesn't actually do anything because we don't have anything built. So let me show you what we're actually going to be building today. The register form is pretty simple. We're just going to have these 4 inputs that will collect the first name, the last name, the email, the password, and then allow them to register. They can also, from this register form page, go to the login and get to the login page if they already have created an account or whatever. So let's go ahead and get into that. As you guys can see, we're going to dive right into the register.js page, and going to start it pretty simple, similar to how we started our home one. So we're going to import React from React, and then we're also going to import form, icon, button, input, and card, all from Ant Design. We're also going to import that container that we made. There it is. And last but not least, we'll save that for just maybe a little bit of a later time. So let's go ahead and create our component. And then just to start it out, we're going to return that container. Okay, cool. So we built out this pretty scaffolded register component already. We're returning the container, the simple container from before. And now within this container, we're going to do something that we did in home again, which is create that card. And then in the card, we're going to give it a title of okay, and then we're also going to apply that inline styling that we had. So just a width of 300 and text align center. Okay, cool. So we got the card in there. The next thing that we're going to want to do is create a form within this card with an onSubmit to run the handle submit function. But let me just go ahead and do it. I think that would be a little easier. So within the card, we're going to create a form component. And then it's going to have this attribute called onSubmit, and an onSubmit, once the form button submit is clicked, we want this function to run. And the function that we're going to have to create we'll call handle submit. And we do it just like that, and close the form. So now we have our form, and you can see that this handle submit is not defined because we have not defined it yet. So we can go up here and define it real quick just to get rid of that red underline. So we could just go ahead up here and do const handle submit equals where it's going to take in the event from the form being submitted and then create our function. Right off the bat, we can do something pretty simple and quick. So we're going to, from the event that it's taking in, prevent the page from refreshing. So automatically when the submit button is clicked, it's going to want to refresh the page and send that data somewhere. But what we're going to want to do is prevent that from happening. So we can just call e.prevent default. and that'll stop the page from reloading, and we can execute our code later on. Okay, cool. So we got our handle submit function. We have the form on submit for the handle submit to be run after the submit button is clicked. So let's go ahead and actually give ourselves those fields. Let's make our inputs. Let's make the button to submit. So first off, we're going to be using that input that we got up here from AntDesign with a capital I. And this is going to have a number of different attributes. It's basically actually going to be entirely attributes. So let's go ahead and close it off. And then let's type in our attributes. So the first one that we're going to have is called placeholder. And that's actually what it sounds like. It's going to be the thing that displays to the user what this field should actually be for, what this input should be for. So let's go ahead and make this first one first name. And then let's apply some quick inline styling to it. That was weird. Okay. We're just going to do margin bottom, and then 10 pixels should do it. Okay, and now we're going to do 2 more, and this next one is a little complicated, but you guys will see what we have going on. So it's going to be called Unchanged, and in Unchanged, we're going to create a function that takes in an event, and then within this, there we go. Within this, we want to actually set the values that the person is typing into this input to something. So that's where we're going to use this thing called a UseState function. If you guys are not familiar, it's a functional component to UseState in React. So we actually import it directly from React. So we're going to go up to our first line and add UseState in curly braces to React, and up here right before our handle submit, we're actually going to declare a number of different things that we're going to need to store in our form that the user is putting in. So we're going to need to store the data that the user is putting into our form somewhere so that we can keep track of it and eventually send it off. So like I showed you guys earlier, in the register, we're going to have these 4 fields. So let's go ahead and create the data storage for those 4 fields using the UseState function of React. So we're going to set const, and then within these square brackets is going to be the name of the data that we want to store. So it's going to be first name. And then the second thing that we want to pass into it is called set first name. And that's going to be how we actually set our first name. And then we set that equal to UseState, and that's just going to be string. So that's how we'll set that up. So this is going to be the general format that we're going to use to actually store state within our React application for everything that uses UseState. So we're gonna need to replicate this for the last name, the email, and the password as well. So let's go ahead and do that. And finally, password. Okay, so we have all of our data storage set up in a UseState function in our React application for everything that we should need to store for our register form. So now we're going to go back down here to where it started all of this in this Unchanged of this input. So let me explain just one more time. When the user is typing in here, all of these values are going to be directly stored from the moment they get typed in into that UseState function, or UseState variable, that we just made up here. So let's go ahead and set that right here. So on change, once it's changed at all from the null input, we want to we want to run a function that will eventually set the variable that it's associated with to the values that they're inputting. That might have been a long way to say it, but let me just show you real quick. I think you guys will get the picture. So in here, we're going to type set first name, and then in the parentheses, we're just going to do e.target.value. And that's going to get the value that the person is typing in to that specific input. So here we have that set up and the Unchanged taking care of the first name. So after the person types in something here, the first name up here will actually have the value that they inputted. Okay, so now there's just one more attribute that we need to put on here, and that is autocomplete. And I'm going to turn it to off for just simplicity's sake. Okay, cool. So we have this first input, the first name, and once they enter a value in the first name field, we are setting it to the first name variable. So this looks like a pretty replicatable format that we can use for all of the other inputs, right? So let's go ahead and do that. The first one I'm going to type out just so you guys, and I advise you guys too, just so you can get the hang of it and actually just so you get used to typing it, I guess. Okay, last name, and then style is going to be the exact same. And then here's that Unchanged. And in this Unchanged, we want to set last name to e.target.value. And then finally the autocomplete. You guys can turn this on or off, play with it. I advise you to. It's actually could be pretty useful. I just don't want it for the video, obviously. So yeah, as you guys, hopefully you were able to follow along through that. I wasn't doing anything too different from up here. Just changing it to the needs that I needed. Only thing I actually changed was this line right here to set last name instead of set first name. So it actually does set it to the last name variable. And then just change the placeholder. So we can use these two for the next two, but we're gonna have to make one small change. Okay, so this is going to be for our email. And then this one is going to be for our password. Cool. And on this one, we can actually go ahead and keep it, because after this input, we need the button no, because we have our input, so we need the register button. Let's go ahead and put that in. Button, a couple attributes, just to make it look a little better. And this next attribute is pretty important. It's called HTML type. And since we're using this type of button from AntDesign and we're not actually using the standard button, this is how we're going to tell the form that we're triggering the submit. So we do HTML type and then submit, and then class name, login form button, style, so just some quick inline styling again. And margin bottom. That should be it for the button. And then from the button, we're just going to have it say register. And then after the button, as you guys can see here, I have it saying or, if they want to go ahead and log directly in. And we're just going to do another button, but without the HTML type. Go ahead and grab this inline styling from the other one. And then we're going to do one more thing. So when this button gets clicked, this is going to be our login button. We want to actually redirect them to the proper login route. So we're going to do an on click and then create a function. And then we're just going to do that props.history.push again. And then in push, we're just going to push them to login. Pretty simple. Okay, cool. And then we have that. So let's end our button. Login. Make everything look nice again. Okay, cool. We are looking very good, guys. Let's go over what we did real quick. So we started off creating one of these card components. Within the card, we created a form with an onSubmit of handle submit, which we did right up here. And then we created all of our inputs for first name, last name, email, password, and then created the buttons to register and actually submit the form, or to push them to the login route where they can go ahead and log in if they've already registered an account. So there's just one more thing that we have to do down here, and that's export default register. Cool, so now that that is in, we should be able to go ahead and actually see our work. So let's just make sure that we're running. We are, and there we go. We can see that we are looking good. There's just a couple styling issues, it looks like. Doesn't look like that margin bottom is being picked up on the first one. Oh yeah, well. I should probably spell style right. There we go. Looking just like the other one. You can't even tell the difference. So there was just one quick thing that you guys might notice that we imported that we did not use. And this is just a little something that makes it look kind of nice. So there's a reason I put this at the end of the video and didn't address it. It's because it's not entirely necessary. It just, again, makes it look pretty nice. So on the input for email, we can go ahead and make it have that icon that we have in the final version by just doing prefix and then equals icon type user style, and then we just set the color of the icon here. I'm gonna be using RGBA to set it, and then 0.25. Here. Okay, let's see if that worked, and there it is. You can see that the icon just puts itself right before the email, makes it look a little nicer. We're gonna go, don't worry, we're gonna do it one more time for the password. So it's just like before, so prefix and then equals icon type user style color 000.25. But instead of the type, we're actually going to change it to lock, and then end the icon. Let's go check it out. There we go. Pretty simple. It just makes it look a little nicer, you know. But yeah, guys, as you could tell, this was a pretty big video. In the next video, I think we're going to be working on the login.js page, get that all hooked up and looking like register and looking like it's ready to actually be hooked up to Firebase. So yeah, look forward to that in the next video, and I'll see you guys next time.